Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from my side to wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. So, I thought of making this video about a research paper which was published in 2018, August. And you can see the resource from National Library of Medicine. And yeah, from PubMed Central for Frontiers in Psychology. The effectiveness, the topic of the paper is effectiveness of art therapy with adult clients in 2018 and what progress has been made. So I think it's important to talk about this paper because for the people specifically who want to understand what art therapy is and how it works, and obviously there will be so many viewpoints, but I thought it will be interesting to record this paper, talk about this paper, and share it with everyone. Well, it's available on PubMed Central as an open resource. I will share the link of the paper of those of you who want to actually read it. So the scholars of the paper are Daphna Regev and Liat Cohen Yatsev. Okay. So abstract. Okay. In the year 2000, an important art therapy literature review addressed an essential question: does art therapy work? It discussed 17 articles dealing with the issue of the effectiveness of art therapy, and 2 decades later, this research field has extended its scope and is flourishing. Several current reviews of research work have described the broad range of methods implemented today, which includes qualitative and quantitative studies. Other reviews have focused on art therapy with specific population or by age group. The aim of this systematic literature review is to contribute to the ongoing discussion in the field by exploring the latest studies dealing with the effectiveness of art therapy with a broad scope of adult clients. We conducted a comprehensive research in 4 databases and review of every quantitative article that has addressed outcome measure in art therapy field from 2000 to 2017. This paper presents the latest 27 studies in the field that examine the effectiveness of art therapy with adult client and divides them into 7 clinical categories. Okay, so they divided the study for 7 category of patients, starting with cancer patients, clients with medical conditions, mental health clients, clients coping with trauma, prison inmates, elderly, clients who have not been diagnosed with specific issues but face ongoing daily challenges. It underscores the potential effect of art therapy on those 7 clinical population and recommends the necessary expansion for further research in the field to enable art therapy research to take further strides forward. Great. The keywords they have used are art therapy, effectiveness, evaluation, adult systematic review, and clinical population. In 1999, nearly 2 decades ago, the American Art Therapy Association issued a mission statement that outlined the organization's commitment to research, defined the preferential topics for this research, and suggested future research directions in the field. 1 year later, Reynolds et al. Published a review of studies that address the therapeutic effectiveness of art therapy. They included studies that differed in terms of research, quality, and standards. In 8 studies by different authors, there was a single group with no control group. In 4 studies, there was a control group, but no randomization of participants between the experimental group and the control group. And in only 5 studies was there randomization of experimental group and control group. Okay. They concluded that there was a substantial need to expand research in the field of art therapy to determine the most appropriate intervention for different populations. 2 decades later, the field of art research in art therapy developed considerably. There are several reviews in the field that describe the expanding body of research work. Some of these reviews present studies that have examined the effectiveness of art therapy without distinguishing between different populations. For example, as an extension of the work and review by Reynolds and Slayton reviewed articles published between 1999 and 2007 that measured the outcome of art therapy sessions with different populations. Their review included qualitative studies, studies based on single client in therapy, studies with no control group, studies with control group, but with no randomization, and a small number of studies with the control group and randomization. They concluded that there has been progress in the field, but further research is needed. 4 years later, Mao Jean summarized high quality studies that implemented RCT that focused on art therapy with adults. So the importance of controlled trials, as compared to the previous studies is senior. They found 8 such studies that were conducted between 2008 and 2013. Even 7 reported beneficial effects of art therapy for adult clients, but they also concluded that more reliable controlled studies were needed to draw conclusions. Seems like they haven't been reaching any conclusion. Okay. Let's read further. Together with these comprehensive reviews, many literature reviews have appeared in recent years discussing specific population as a range of research method. For example, in the field of art therapy for adults, Holmquist, sorry if I'm ruining the name, and Person overviewed art therapy studies on clients with psychosomatic disorders, deep eating disorders, or facing crisis, based on case studies and intervention techniques. It's interesting, the variation of people under study, right from very high psychosomatic disorder to someone facing normal crisis in life. That can be anyone. That's what I always say. Art therapy is not only for it's for everyone. Everyone faces crisis in life. Based on case study and intervention techniques, okay, they concluded that there were not enough studies to prove that art therapy is effective for these specific disorders. Similarly, Gu et al. And a year later, Wood et al. Examined art therapy with cancer patients. They assessed quantitative and qualitative studies and found that most studies have dealt with women suffering from breast cancer. They also documented the intervention technique that was specifically used with this population and reported that overall quantitative studies reported an improvement in number of emotional domains faced by these clients. Very, very, very interesting point, which makes me wonder, does art therapy work better with women than men? This can be an interesting study on its own. Probably, yeah, because I'm sorry, I don't want to generalize, but women are more artistic in nature. They can connect more with drawing, in traditional roles. I'm not denying the fact that there are great men who are artists, but in general masses population with cultural and societal duties and responsibilities which have been put upon women and men from generations and generations have brought out this tendency or have reflected that women are more creative, dealing with day to day creative work, and men are more into the matrix or in the dimension of earning or hunting for the food. So, yeah, earlier studies showed that there was not major change observed, but when the same study was repeated with women suffering from breast cancer, there was quite a good improvement seen in emotional domains. Okay, that's interesting. Another article by Hewitt reviewed articles dealing with ways to reduce stress in the workplace through art therapy intervention techniques. That's very nice. I really love that. Ways to reduce stress in workplace through art therapy. In this article, total 11 articles were discussed that employed different research methods. The author focused on describing different ways to use art therapy in this context and argued that there has there has been a gradual emergence of a vast body of knowledge that reinforces the benefits of art therapy for people working in stressful work environments. So, yes, there has been so much literature proving that art therapy works for people in work environments. So, basically, patients with breast cancer and people who are under stressed environments have been proven to be, having good emotional improvement. That's good. Let me just check the recording. Yeah, it's going on. Great. In the past 3 years, a number of literature reviews of controlled quantitative studies have dealt more specifically with issue of effectiveness of art therapy in treating specific population. Schouten overviewed quantitative studies in art therapy with adult trauma victims. Okay, now we come to the trauma victims. They found that only 6 studies included a control group, only one of which included randomization in this field. Half reported a significant reduction in trauma symptoms, and another study found a decrease in the level of depression in client treated with art therapy. Great. So it works for trauma patients. They pointed out that it is difficult to produce quantitative meta-analysis in art therapy given the limited size of the groups and because the evaluation is often based on several therapeutic methods that are used simultaneously. Further, Utile et al. Reviewed all the studies dealing with art therapy for adult clients with non psychotic psychiatric disorders like anxiety, depression, phobias. They found 15 randomized controlled quantitative studies, of which 10 indicated that the therapeutic process was effective. Positive changes following therapy in comparison to control group. They were unable to conduct a meta-analysis due to clinical heterogeneity and lack of sufficient information in the studies. In addition, they reviewed 12 qualitative studies that provided data on 188 clients and 16 therapists. This article deals with research that focuses on measuring effectiveness of art therapy. It addresses two major challenges. The first is the definition of the term effectiveness. We adopted the definition suggested in Hill et al., namely the attribute of an intervention or maneuver that results in more good than harm to those to whom it is offered. The current review takes a positivist perspective as per Holton and relates to measurement of effectiveness reported in quantitative studies that have been conducted in the field. Since the field of art therapy is still young, very young, and specifically if I'm speaking from my present situation, it's very young in my area, my country. The scope of research is limited and the quality of research is diverse, which makes it difficult to create a comparative review that presents the knowledge in the field and draws through conclusion. Therefore, our review is based on the systematic review framework proposed in K. Smith, who divided these studies she reviewed into three levels of evidence. Level 1 refers to randomized controlled trials, level 2 refers to non-randomized two group studies, and level 3 refers to non-randomized one group study. Okay. The second challenge has to do with the definition art therapy. We applied the standard definition provided by American Art Therapy Association. Makes sense. Art therapy facilitated by a professional art therapist effectively supports personal and relational treatment goals as well as community concerns. Art therapy is used to improve cognitive and sensory motor functions, foster self esteem and self awareness, cultivate emotional resilience, promote insight, enhance social skills, reduce and resolve conflicts and distress, and advance societal and ecological change. This was a definition given by American Art Therapy Association in 2018. So if anyone wants to really understand what is art therapy, this is the definition. Okay. This definition makes it clear that art therapy is a process that takes place in the presence of a certified art therapist and indicates different areas where an effect or outcome in therapy can be expected as a result of this form of treatment. Thus, the research question was formulated according to PICOS components. Is art therapy effective for adult clients as measured in results published from 2000 to 2017? In various quantitative studies corresponding to level 1, 2, 3, these studies assessed the effectiveness of art therapy on variety of indices including symptoms and physical measures, health or mental health assessments, quality of life assessments, or coping resources. These indices were typically evaluated through questionnaire and occasionally by projective drawings or physiological indices. By posing this question, the systematic review joins the ongoing discussion in the field on the level of effectiveness of art therapy with adult clients. This forms part of the academization process in the field of art therapy, which involves attempting to relate intervention techniques in the field with their significance for theoretical research. Okay, so this finishes the introduction part. I don't want to read method. I will don't want to make this video very long. You can read if you are interested. I will share the link down below. This article is openly available on public domain. So they have given data for different categories of patients that were under the study: cancer patients with medical conditions, mental health, trauma victims, prison inmates, elderly, and the clients which faced ongoing daily challenges. I can read through discussion and conclusion. The purpose of this review was to assess whether art therapy is effective for adult clients as measured in quantitative studies published from 2000 to 2017. Notably, since the Reynolds review, the body of knowledge in this field has grown and established itself significantly, and a growing number of RCT studies have been conducted with larger sample sizes. The advantages of such studies lies in the lesser likelihood of type 1 errors as opposed to other studies with no control group or studies that have a control group but no randomization. Yeah. Nevertheless, there are still only a small number of studies addressing each population, and these studies differ considerably in terms of the course of the therapeutic process, the proposed intervention, and the indices that were examined, hence making a meaningful meta-analysis impossible. The findings, however, are largely encouraging and show a growing trend towards conducting more carefully designed studies that lend themselves to validation and replication. Yet there is a long road ahead. In the past, the effectiveness of art therapy was noticeable to those involved in the field but less to other professionals. Today, by contrast, there are impressive published findings in a variety of these studies that can help expand the contribution of art therapists in other areas with other population. That's interesting that people other than from the background of art therapy are now showing interest. They are able to see the changes that it is bringing in people's life. Sorry. During our search, we were struck by the large number of articles which appear to present interventions in the field of art therapy, but in fact were conducted by non-certified art therapists or were restricted to a therapeutic intervention of a single session in a manner that would not be considered therapy. I always feel single sessions really don't work because it's an ongoing process. Single sessions should not be even considered for measuring the effectiveness. The existence of such studies emphasize the continued need to define, clarify, and specify what art therapy is and what it is not, and specifically to clarify that this type of therapy must be composed of ongoing sessions to be conducted by a certified art therapist who meets the criteria defined for the profession. Great. The first two clinical categories dealt with clients who are coping with a variety of medical conditions. In this section, we were surprised by the vast amount of research in the field of art therapy with cancer patients, most of which were categorized as level 1. Art therapy emerges strongly as a way to enhance their quality of life and their ability to cope with variety of psychological symptoms. Our review supplements various reviews in the field and shows that findings on art therapy with cancer patients are primarily based on higher levels of evidence studies with randomization and relatively large samples. Yeah, because it's easy to conduct a research in a cancer hospital setting. And how do we do it otherwise for people who are in other settings? Okay, great. So far, so good. The second category, which dealt with clients with a range of medical problems, was intended primarily to list the preliminary research in this field. Due to the wide variability between the different populations, the differences in the populations treated suggested that the measurement tools should be adopted to each type of medical issue. Makes sense. The only instrument that could possibly be applied to all these populations in future research is one that measures improvement in quality of life. It is surprising to note that unlike research on cancer patients, which has been considerable, there has been few studies on individuals with other medical conditions. The third category dealt with clients with mental health issues. This category in this category, we focused solely on adult clients as opposed to children, which will be reviewed in separate article. Okay, and differentiated from elderly. In addition, they were separated from clients coping with trauma. As a result, a relatively small number of studies met the strict criteria of this review regarding what would be defined as art therapy for clients with mental health issues, although some of the studies had large sample sizes and showed a higher level of evidence. For clients coping with schizophrenia, the reviewed findings are not optimistic. Mhm. So it really doesn't work with schizophrenic patients as per this study. These data are congruent with many articles on psychotherapy that have addressed this population and have emphasized the complexity of treating such individuals. Studies have shown that the most effective therapeutic approach for this population appears to be cognitive and behavioral. Hmm. Yeah, it can be. So that's what for CBT patients, it's really, really amazing. I have always felt that. Yes, it is. Thus, future work should examine effectiveness of cognitive behavioral approach in art therapy for this population. More research is also needed to better understand how art therapy can be effective with clients experiencing other mental health issues. Great. Coming to the fourth category. The fourth category addressed clients coping with trauma. While there have been few studies in this field, all of them are in higher level of evidence. It is important to note that these studies did not assess post-traumatic stress disorder, but rather individuals who have dealt with traumatic events. Hmm. So the non-diagnosed ones, the ones with proper diagnosis were not included. Okay. Even though the first study did not confirm effectiveness of art therapy, the limited number of sessions with each client may have been a major factor. When dealing with trauma, there is a need for thorough processing of experience, and it is quite possible that 2 sessions were insufficient. Oh my God, yes, it is. Trauma healing needs years. It can take minimum at least 1 year. I'll take it as at least one to 1.5 year. With just 2 sessions, you cannot make a study. This is the problem. This is the problem. The second study reported that art therapy was beneficial when the intervention lasted longer. These data are consistent with Schouten review. Certain studies reviewed by Schouten were not mentioned in our review because some were not published as articles. The other included single session intervention that were not led by a certified art therapist. Yes. Single sessions, 2 sessions are really not going to work, especially for trauma. The fifth category addressed prison inmates. In this field, it is worth mentioning that the work of Gusak, a researcher who has studied the field and conducted several studies with an increasing number of participants, his findings undoubtedly pointed to the potential of art therapy for inmates, particularly in long-term intervention. Very good. Some study which is giving some definite answers. Probably he would have might be conducted it for longer time in the prison because it becomes easy. They are there, they are available. You just need to go conduct a study and come back. The sixth category addressed the elderly. The field of geriatric art therapy has been gaining momentum in recent years. It is clear from the articles that group therapy sessions are particularly suitable for those clients and that it is important to continue conducting research to target effective intervention methods for this population. The research findings clearly indicate the potential of this field. Yes, definitely for geriatric art is going to work wonders. The seventh and final category dealt with the clients who are facing daily challenges in their life. This is the most interesting group that I'm really interested in. The findings suggested that art therapy can be a suitable form of treatment and a way to mitigate issues and such as stress and burnout at work. Yes, art therapy has to be included in all the workplaces. I mean, it is. It is such a beautiful method of keeping stress and burnout at bay. Overall, this review documents the extensive research conducted in recent years, although qualitative studies were not included in this article. There is no doubt that using a variety of research methods can help expand knowledge in the field. As concerns quantitative studies, the review examined the effectiveness of art therapy for adult clients from research in the field from recent years and with reference to 7 clinical categories. The current review has several limitations. First, due to smaller number of studies. Let me check if the recording is. Yeah, it is on. It's almost we are reading for last half an hour. The current review has several limitations. First, due to the small number of studies in the field, it includes various levels of quantitative studies. Some lack comparison groups, and other include comparison groups with other treatment methods, for example, verbal therapy. This variability makes it difficult to generalize across findings, but not mentioning these studies would have led to the inclusion of an even smaller number of studies. Second, in many studies, there are several indices of varying types. Occasionally, only some of these indices led to demonstrable indications of the effectiveness of art therapy. Due to the complexity of the findings, we were not able to we were not always able to detail these subtleties and challenges in current review, and future researchers interested in the field should examine these specific studies closely before conducting further research on the same population. In addition, due to the limited number of studies in this field, we needed to combine various subjects. In certain cases, make decisions, create artificial categories based on our professional knowledge and judgment. Yes, making artificial categories are so important. Why not make a category on 16 personality types and study art therapy and its effect on each personality type? That is something interesting, and I would really love to do something in this area. For example, the article on female infertility was placed in the 7th category of ongoing and daily challenges and not in the 2nd category of medical problems due to feasibility of this condition for various reasons which are not necessarily medical. Wow. Female infertility as a area of study for art therapy, that is something very interesting. Yes, it is, because when I talk from a spiritual point of view, I am a SIA follower, spiritual intuitive art follower. I follow the practice of SIA. So, yes, for infertility cases, art therapy is going to heal the sacral chakra, the creative part of the psycho-spiritual system of the body of a person in question, and is going to definitely help with the symptoms. Interesting that scientific community is trying to think about the impact of art therapy on female infertility. Bridging the gaps between science and spirituality. Great. I will have to pause just for a second. Yeah. Research in the field can be expanded in several ways. First, art therapy is very broad domain that covers diverse population, some of which have not yet been studied at all in the context of treatment effectiveness. Second, based on the conclusions derived from this review, future studies should be planned so that they are performed by a certified art therapist over a continuous period of time and on large enough samples. In doing so, within approximately a decade, it should be possible to produce a meaningful meta-analysis based on significant and comparable findings from the field, which could lead to more advanced and specific conclusions. Third, in order to raise the level of research in our field, it is important for researchers to devote time and thought to planning studies at highest level. Large samples are not enough. One should also consider well controlled studies, the blindness of the experiment, the blindness of the participants and the experimenters to the purpose of research, the division of research group, and so on. Finally, it is of great importance that researchers will select valid and reliable research tools that have been used extensively. This documentation of the numerous studies on the effectiveness of art therapy was long and complex, but also filled us with hope. We are optimistic that this article will take the field one step further in this direction. Yes, thank you so much to the scholars who have written this beautiful article, and I really loved how they have summarized it. So, yes, those of you who are interested in understanding what is art therapy, well, it's a long way. I feel art therapy is something much beyond science. It is something which has its connection with the spiritual systems. And I hope and I think I feel it's a very beautiful tool which can connect scientific community with spiritual communities. So thank you, and thank you for listening, and we'll come back with something more interesting related to growth and healing. Take care. Bye bye.